Hello, everyone. We are live. I am live and you are here with me, and I love it. I am very excited about today. We have quite a big topic to cover, and it will take up the majority of the first part of our conversation, and then I will get to questions from you in the second half of the conversation. And it is no less than 95 degrees in New York, and even with the ACs cranked, it's very hot in here, so we'll see how long I can last with this main down before I have to put it up. As always, thank you so much for being here, and a reminder that if you are live, you can drop your questions in the chat on YouTube at any time. And if you are not live and you're catching the recording, then you can drop your questions or comments or thoughts or sensations, anything that you have to communicate in the Substack. We have a thread called open topics for July, I think it's called, or open thread topics for July. So if you have more questions or something resonated, feel free to drop it there. And without further ado, we will dive in. So the main topic for today is herb sourcing. And this is definitely one of the most common questions that I am asked and have been asked over the years, and with good reason, because sourcing herbs is not an easy thing to do. There are lots of things that you want to consider. There are lots of different forms that herbs come in. It's just a big wide world of, ingredients, and it spans the entire globe, and it's difficult to do. And that is why there are professionals, who do it and who create products, and we go and we buy these products, because the process of us sourcing them on our own can be very challenging. That said, it's doable. And I have a ton of information for you. I'm going to share what I do have, and I would not be surprised if there's still lots of questions, and we want to continue talking about this as time goes by. So I will do my best to get you really, really well set up to source your own herbs in whatever scale works for you. So again, this is really geared toward you're an individual or you're a family and you're wanting to source herbs to use in your daily life, not you're an herbal professional or a supplement professional and you're looking to source herbs at scale. There'll be a little bit of that, because a lot of these resources come from my sourcing for Supernatural Cafe, Apothecary, and our products. But primarily this is for using at home when you know that you're really committed to using herbs on a regular basis. So with that, let's dive in. My hand here, it's like when you can't see the lower half of my arm, is it weird if it's just a hand right here? Probably not, you're used to it. Screen life. Okay, so we are going to talk about where to buy, what to buy, how to assess quality and value from some of my favorite places for finding herbs in all different forms and formats: powders, tinctures, capsules, granules, whole herbs, fresh, dried, and beyond. So first of all, I'm just swallowing, this is a huge topic. So first of all, in terms of assessing quality, I recommend running your herbal desires, or your shopping list, if you will, through the same criteria that you apply to your food. So if organic matters to you, then you want to find organic herbs. If local matters to you, then you want to find local herbs. If a female farm or a female team that's processing matters to you, then you want to look into that. If ethical sourcing and ethical working conditions matter to you, if sustainability matters to you, so like all the criteria that you are aligned with for your food or your lifestyle or your moral decisions, your political decisions, whatever it is that you feel like matters to you, maybe make a little list and then know that that's part of the criteria that you want to apply to when you're buying herbs. Same things that you apply to if you're shopping for, I don't know, clothes or housewares or anything else that you buy, and you make decisions based on, I want it to come from these kinds of people or this kind of place or this distance, or I want it to be this quality, or none of that matters to me. I just want to get as much as I can for as little as possible. Whatever your motivations are, there's room for them when you're sourcing herbs. Then, so in terms of a note on quality, and this is where and why sourcing herbs can be a little bit challenging. I'll make it less challenging, I promise. But herbs, each herb is going to have a little bit of a different requirement in terms of some of that criteria. The part of the plant that's used, where it's grown, how it's harvested, how it's processed, how it's delivered to you. For example, hawthorn, which is a great remedy for the heart, we can use the flowers or the berries or the flowers and the berries. If somebody was selling you hawthorn root, for example, they'd be scamming you. Or functional mushrooms. Those, like a lot of plants, are grown in a base and they're concentrating that base. And so you want to make sure that what they're grown in is really good quality. You don't want them grown in something nasty and you're taking, really great reishi grown in something nasty. Nasty is in your reishi, right? Or the fact that mushrooms in their constitution contain chitin, which we can't digest and break down, right? It's like the same substance that seafood shells are composed of. So if you're getting a powder, that either needs to be an extract powder or you need to process it in a certain way on your side by making a long steep tea, for example, in order to break it down and digest it and absorb it. Otherwise, you're not getting anything. You're just getting some upset stomach. Or another example, certain ginseng needs to be allowed to grow for a number of years. Let's say it's 7 years. Some places are going to harvest it at 3 years because they're not, doing it in an ethical way. And then you're not only getting a par product from a quality standpoint, but it's also harmful to the ginseng crop long term. And that plant is already, certain forms of ginseng are already on the endangered species or the at-risk species list. So we're compromising the future of ginseng as well. Those are just some examples. So what I would say is some of this will be really simple and you'll be able to not really consider that because you're buying from a good place and you can trust a good place. But if you're really into this, you're really down in the weeds, we can use that, metaphor, then start to understand more about the plants that you're using, why you're using them, and therefore what form they need to be in. This applies in so many different conditions. Again, like turmeric, we can extract just the curcumin and use just the curcumin, but we actually get better results when we have curcumin and the rest of the turmeric plant too, because you get the synergy and the bioavailability and all this stuff. The same goes for berberine in berberine containing plants. So berberine itself is difficult to absorb. We excrete it quickly. So if you want berberine, maybe you want berberine and the whole plant. Anyway, I'm not going to go too far into that world because that gets a little bit more onto the topic of supplements, which we can talk about in the future if you have questions about that. But what I would say is either get to know your herbs kind of one by one, and some of them are really simple. You're like nettle leaf, you can just use nettle leaf, or dandelion or plantain or whatever, like these local guys that you can just forage. Or if you don't want to get down in the weeds on the specificity of ginseng and mushrooms and I don't know, rhodiola or something like that, then you need to buy from a company that you trust, which I'll tell you more about, because they will do all that consideration for you. It's still a good idea to have some understanding of that, because even these trustworthy companies, sometimes they don't have great product, or they don't know, or things slip through or whatever it is. So just be aware of that, and either really know your stuff and you can take it one herb at a time, or shop from trusted brands. Okay. Okay. So I have lots of resources for you here. Now, let's talk a little bit about formats. So herbs come in lots of different formats, right? Powders, tinctures, capsules, extract granules, which are kind of like an instant tea. It's a little bit different than that, something like that. Dried plant, fresh plant, right? All these different forms. And when you get into sourcing, you're usually talking about the raw plant, so the raw material, fresh or dried. Usually it's dried in large quantities, because otherwise you're shopping, right? You're buying tinctures, you're buying powders. Some of the powders you can get in larger quantities, but not quite so often. You're shopping products from great brands. So I'll give you some of my favorite brands for that sort of thing. But when we're talking about bulk, herb sourcing, which is truly herb sourcing, because otherwise it's like shopping, right? Herb sourcing, you tend to be talking about dried material in volumes of like a pound or two and up, right? So when we would buy for the cafe, we would be buying pounds and pounds of nettle leaf, which is a lot of nettle leaf, right? Minimum. And as a consumer, you can't go in and say, hey, I just want to buy 8 ounces of nettle leaf, because these are giant suppliers. Again, we're sourcing herbs and they have minimums. The one place that sort of blends those worlds and allows you to pick lesser quantities of herbs from a whole bunch of different places in raw form is Mountain Rose Herbs. And Mountain Rose Herbs, I'll include all this in the show notes. Mountain Rose Herbs is a great one-stop shop for like raw material in smaller quantities. You can buy like 4 ounces at a time, I think, as well as tinctures and oils. They also have teas that are already blended. They have books. Actually, as a side note, I'm going to pull this up. Mountain Rose Herbs has a section on their website that I send people to all the time for books and schools. Yep, right in the top it says herbal education, and there you can find schools, a radio, and books. I primarily recommend looking at the schools list and the books. The books are great. They're all organized by your specific interests. But shopping from them is a pretty unique experience. There aren't a whole lot of other places like this on the internet. There are some, but not a ton. So we have that one. Let me see. My list is so long. I'm just kind of looking at what order to go through here. And then some other sources that I like for like large shopping, kind of less branded, you're a little bit more of an insider at this point, would be Organic India is a good one. So Organic India, they have products that you can shop, but they're also like bags and pouches and teas and that sort of thing. A lot of people will recognize this brand when you see it. So this is a great resource for Ayurvedic ingredients and Ayurvedic information. They have a lot of really good Ayurvedic information. I would also recommend Banyan Botanicals. And again, all of this will be in the show notes. So Banyan Botanicals is another great brand of ingredients that are primarily Ayurvedic, right? So they have body oils, cooking ingredients. So this is where, for example, you can get a bag. Let's say this one looks like it's a half pound of powdered triphala or bacopa or something like that. So they have a bulk herbs section if you go there. And this is really nice because it's like, looks like it's like $9, $15. You know, here's a perfect example, ashwagandha. So you can get a half pound or a pound for $14 or $25. Now, if you're buying ashwagandha, typically in capsules or even in a jar from, let's just say, one of our favorite brands, Anima Mundi, right? You're definitely paying more than $14 for less than a half pound. So when you get to the stage with your herbal practice where you're like, yeah, I use ashwagandha every day, like I should, because Rachelle told me to, and I'm going to use it every day for a long time, buy it by the pound. Buy it by the pound, save yourself a bunch of money, and have really good quality, lots of ashwagandha. So this is that kind of middle range, right? Where you're like, I'm not buying 10 pounds. I'm not creating a product with it. I'm just taking care of myself or my family. This is a great way to do it. So Banyan Botanicals for powder, fantastic, right? And again, it's primarily Ayurvedic, but that doesn't mean that there aren't things that are also local. For example, for me, you know, bitter melon is also local. You have cinnamon, cumin, you know, all these different things. You see the spice. Ayurveda is just brilliant with taking spices and food, medicine, and just showing that, you know, it's all herbalism. It's all the same thing. So you've got that. Now, while we're on the topic of spices, I have to say, I think Burlap and Barrel are brilliant for spices and sourcing. They have fantastic transparency into where they're sourcing, and I happen to know, I've known them for quite a long time, actually, on a personal level, and the mentality that they have about going directly to the farmers and skipping the middlemen and making sure that the farmers are getting taken care of, and you are getting super cool spices. And a lot of times you're getting a variety that is not this like cultivated, sort of blanded spice that the rest of the world has kind of mass developed. You get something really unique. Like they have a special kind of cinnamon called royal cinnamon that is mind blowing. And they have blue turmeric, super cool stuff. So I cannot say enough good things about Burlap and Barrel. I think they're fantastic. They have lots of really cool stories too, so you can see like where they're sourcing and all of that. So single origin spices, love it. Okay, now moving into more of a traditional Chinese medicine realm for different types of herbs. One of the great ones, which has a location in New York, is Kamwo, Kamwo. And Kamwo is a pharmacy that has been around since the 70s. If you're in New York, you can go in and get custom blends. As you can see right in the beginning of their website, they have custom raw herbs. So those are like the, cut, sifted, dried herbs that you have to make yourself. They have granules, capsules, syrups. They have resources for practitioners, and then you can shop their products. They have information on herb quality. So that's another thing. If you are not sure about the company or the provider that you're shopping from, you can ask them to show you some testing or some quality information, like what sort of, resources do you have available that we can see that show the quality of your herbs? And if they don't, not a good sign. They should. All of them should. That goes for products too. Like we do product testing on our herbal gummies, which for those of you who don't know the herbal gummies yet, these are them. People should be able to show you that information. So Camwell is great. Camwell is a very cool spot. Their website's a little confusing, but you'll figure it out. So that is a lot of traditional Chinese medicine there. And where's my other TCM resource for you? Oh, Mayway is another TCM resource. Mayway Herbs, Chinese medicinal herbs. It's a huge shop there. And again, you'll probably recognize some of the labels there. There are some really great blends there. Now, this again is a little bit more of the like shopping products at first glance. But if you go to raw powdered herbs or whole herbs, and they even have a different section for organic. See, so it's not all organic by default. So you do have to do that research on your own, right? So if you go to some of their more bulk sections, then you can find things in larger quantities, right? Okay. Let's see, that's TCM. Let's do, so then for just kind of buying, big quantities of teas, let's say, Star West Botanicals is one that a lot of people actually know of and use. So Star West Botanicals, bulk herbal store. They also have herbs and spices, extracts, lots of other things, but primarily I've used them for bulk tea. So they have a lot. And for those of you who use Amazon, which I'm not promoting or otherwise, but for those of you who do, Star West is also available through Amazon. So you're basically just buying Star West on Amazon. Sometimes you can get a little faster. That's a decision that I will leave up to you. And then similar to Star West is, I wrote it down here, but I'm still looking in my list. Frontier Co-op is interesting. So let's do Frontier Co-op since I said it. So Frontier is another place where you can get, let me just pull it up here for you. You can get a lot of these ingredients, again, in a larger quantity. So you can get bulk, you can get things for your house, you can get, if you run like a little shop, or I don't know if it's great if you run a restaurant, you have to be a little smaller than that maybe, but they have a great bulk section. So you go to their website, products, bulk, and then there's a whole leaf tea, spices and seasonings, salts, so again, like running the cafe, we would buy things here like salt or, pepper, or all these different things that we would use in our drinks and that sort of thing. So again, you're paying, just for example, a pound of yerba mate is $14. It's like, it's going to last you a long time. It's good. And so they're going to show you clearly if it's organic or anything like that. So this is a great resource. You may have to have a membership for Frontier. We did when we had a wholesale account, but I'm not sure as a consumer if you have to have a membership or not. So Frontier Co-op is great. I also like Terrasol. So again, these will all be in the show notes if you're not sure how to spell things. Terrasol for superfood type ingredients and again, bulk. So I'm going to save you a bunch of money just in general, not just on herb sourcing. You eat dates. You use hemp protein. I buy it from them. You consume nuts. You like spirulina, whatever it is. Again, these are bulk, sources. Goji berries. Oh my God, I buy goji berries from them in like a 10-pound bag. It's probably 5 pounds, not 10 pounds, but it's a lot. Beet juice, cacao powder, coconut, chlorella, dried fruit. A lot of people like nuts.com too. I like the quality on Terrasol a little bit better, but so it looks like my goji berries are 2.5 pounds, right? But goji berries are expensive. So when larger quantity you buy, and look, goji berries are an herb too. Those are considered an herb for sure in TCM. So Terrasol is fantastic. I love that one as well. Now, let's get to kind of back into like Western herb world. 5 Flavors Herbs is another great one. If you're in California, they have a shop. 5 Flavors has sort of tinctures. They have their own shop, and they have also other people's products. So you can get, if you're an herbalist and you're looking for wholesale, there's wholesale here, or if you're a consumer and you're just looking for products, this is a great place to shop, and you can filter by what you're looking for. So let's just say we're looking for loose tea. And we want, they have a little bit of loose tea, not a ton. So I like them. Again, we tended to work with them more. A lot of these places we worked with on a wholesale level, because I'm a business, but I'm also a consumer. So anyway, 5 Flavors Herbs is nice. And I think they've got a neat future ahead of them too. They've been around for a very long time as well, though. It's not that they're new. Okay, so now getting a little bit more into like the kind of consumer shopping world, and then we'll talk about farms last. So just good quality products. I recommend Herbalist and Alchemist for primarily for tinctures. And you've heard me talk about this before, but Herbalist and Alchemist, so like, look, not the sexiest website in the world, but that's a lot of herbalism, and that's okay. This is David Winston, and he is my favorite teacher. I think he is fantastic, extremely quality obsessed, extremely. They will not use an ingredient in any of their products that is not great. If they can't get it, they'll stop using it, or they won't, if they can't get it as a great quality, they just won't even use it. So love everything about what's happening here. And you can get, the other thing, I think I've said this before, but maybe I said it in a session with a client, go shop their tinctures. And let's just say we'll go shop a tincture, choose the one that starts with A, since it's in alphabetical order. Adrenal Balance. Go to Adrenal Balance to buy this tincture. There are all these other recommendations just on the product page. So he's telling you additional recommendations. Try stress reduction techniques such as meditation, deep breathing exercises, Tai Chi, biofeedback, and improvements in diet such as elimination of sugar and caffeine, and then additional useful herbs. There's like 12 or more herbs listed here, so you're getting a little education too for free. It is great. He's great. So Herbalist and Alchemist, primarily for tinctures. They also have some very cool solid extracts. So if you go to products, herbs by type, solid extracts, this is a cool thing that not a lot of the world knows about. In herbalism, sometimes you'll get the plants in a solid extract. So you have blueberry, hawthorn, like I was mentioning earlier, and pomegranate goji. And the hawthorn, this product, hawthorn solid extract, won product of the year in 2022. Was it this year or 2021? 2022. So exciting. I should just buy some of this. That's great. So you get, the hawthorn in almost like a heavy jam. So solid extracts are super cool. They're really good for kids too. Oh, wow. So it's 95 degrees in New York, and we're going to get thunder and lightning. The weather is broken. That kind of makes me emotional. Oh, God. All right. So that's Herbalist and Alchemist. I also like Herb Farm, as many of you know. Herb Farm with a PH is a very, very good place to get tinctures in general. I just had a thought about larger quantities from them, but I don't think you can get larger quantities from them unless you're a wholesaler. But they're great. And there's a discount code, Supernatural20. I'll include it in the show notes for, it's kind of scary, for 20% off at Herb Farm. Then let me just double check my list to make sure that I'm not missing anything else for you guys here. Look, there are lots and lots of brands. So I'm not here to talk about brands today. If you want me to talk about brands in the future, just let me know. Anima Mundi, Wooden Spoon Herbs, Supernatural, like all the different companies that are providing, just products, great products, Moon Juice, whatever. Let me know. But I don't think that when you ask me about sourcing my herbs, I'm pretty sure that's not what you're asking me about. So just triple checking my notes here real quick to make sure that I didn't miss anything for you. They're not there. Are they here? Yes, they're here. Mountain Rose Herbs, Herb Farm, Herbalist and Alchemist, 5 Flavor Herbs, Frontier Co-op, Star West, Banyan, Organic India, Camwo, Mayway, Burlap and Barrel, Terrasol. Okay, so now let's talk about farms. So I'll share with you a farm list. Real quick before I do that, there are 3 places where you can go for supplements. And again, this is much more like at the consumer level. So I'm just going to say it quickly and we'll move on. iHerb is just a giant marketplace that you can find lots of products at. Again, it's not for like sourcing bulk herbs. Full Script, which many of you know, I have a practitioner sort of set up there, so you can shop basically any supplement in the world on Full Script. And if you do it through my portal, you'll get 10% off at least every order. So there's that. And then Metagenics, which is brand specific. And I think many of you know that I work with them as well. But I'll put those in our notes so that you have them. Full Script, Metagenics. And so I'm just thinking of them because those are kind of like marketplaces, but they're a little bit more supplemental. All those places include herbs. One of the reasons why I like Metagenics is that most of their formulas include Ayurvedic or traditional Chinese medicine or blends, but again, not entirely what we're focused on today. Okay, so now farms are interesting because farms allow you to get as close to the herb as possible. You're literally buying it from the place that's growing it. But farms are difficult to buy from if you're not buying in really large quantity. So it can't be a pound. Typically has to be a lot more than that. That said, farms are kind of like, as wellness and herbalism gets more popular and people, there's like this new wave of young farmers. And I think that there's an increase in the accessibility of being able to buy things from farms. You have CSAs, right, which I love. I'll include a link to a CSA locator in the notes. So that's a place where you can sign up for community supported agriculture. We do that and get fruits and veggies. But there are also CSAs for flowers, and there are some CSAs for herbs now. Farms, again, they exist, but they can be tricky to buy from if you're not buying from in large quantities. So what I would say is I'll share a list of some farms with you. And number one, they change all the time. So this list is definitely not comprehensive at all. And some of the farms that were cool 2 years ago will not be as cool now. And some that are cool now will not be cool in 2 years. And like, there's a constant turnover of how, who and how and what is like ideal in the farm world. And your best bet is to just check them out, see if they have what you want. And maybe they do, and maybe it's a great fit for you. So for example, if you're like, I just want lots of nettle and I want it to be local, and I saw this farm at the farmer's market, I'm gonna reach out to them. And they're like, yeah, totally, you can buy a pound of nettle from us, then great. So there's a little bit more like hit or miss, but they're also very cool because the quality is fantastic generally. And you can choose local farms if you want. So I've got a list here. I won't go through all of them, but I think I have another shop for you. Oh, I do. I'll just include the list of farms in our show notes. There's no point in me really talking through all of them. But there is another shop. This is fairly focused on traditional Chinese medicine. This is an especially good one for quality of TCM type herbs, and it's new herbs and new herbs. Another thing that I would mention is back to the beginning when I was saying that different herbs have different, specifications for quality and sourcing and that sort of thing. Different providers will also specialize. So it's very common to find the spirulina people, and that's all they do, right? It's just great spirulina. Or the turmeric people, right? What is the brand? There's a local New York brand that started and they just did great turmeric, and now they do lots of other things. So sometimes you'll just find, that the best place to get spirulina keeps coming to mind because that's really one that, I don't know, I referenced recently. You get it from these one people, and that's just what they do. So that happens as well. Okay. I think we're getting about through this. If anybody has any questions, please drop them into the chat. I'm just going to review my notes. So we went through bulk sourcing. Oh, a couple last notes. Farmers markets are a very, very, very good place to get local, super fresh, awesome quality herbs, and also to meet farmers in your area who you can build a relationship with and hopefully work from or work with in the future, buy from in the future. Also, local herb shops. There's probably one, there's definitely one in your state, Local herb shops exist. They can be a little hard to find because they're generally not good at marketing. Just kidding, kind of, but also not really. So try to find some of those, and you can buy. That's a really nice way to go in and see a library of all these herbs and say, I just want a little of that, a little of that, a little of that. And then once you know that you love it, you can buy larger quantities, online. It's also nice to see it in person. Okay, health food stores too. They have to be pretty crunchy health food stores, Whole Foods doesn't count. I don't know if are they even a whole health food store anymore? Maybe. Okay, and then last but not least, in my farm list, I do have just a couple of other places that do big bulk herbs. So Hatton Naturals is one. They have bulk spices and botanicals, bulk teas. So these guys are a good option, again, if you're trying to buy by the pound. Where else? Yeah, I'll probably stop and just give you this list because I think that about covers it. So anyway, with all of that information, I'll be really curious to know. So please let me know, actually, after you watch this video, do you feel great, I got it, I'm on it? Or I still have questions, or I need more of this, or, let me know. Give me yes, that was great, or no, I'm totally confused now, so that I have an understanding of how helpful this was. Because again, it's a lot of information, and there's so many levels with herb sourcing, that you're trying to buy at and kind of get through. So give me feedback, and with that, we will move on. Okay. The sky will fall as we move on. I wonder, can you hear the thunder? Okay, so next question comes from you, and it is, what is your take on colonics? And this will be a quick one, maybe. I don't know. Do I talk a long time on any given subject? So on colonics, my personal opinion is that I think they are rarely necessary. I think they are questionably ideal. So I think there's a time and a place for them, but to get them regularly for maintenance or just as a best practice, I am suspicious of that. I think that fiber, water, juicing, supplements, all the things that we know can improve motility. And thank you, Meg. I appreciate the feedback. If we're trying to clean out our bowels, I would really recommend that we do it in a different way, a little bit more of a natural way. And I think if we're having trouble with complete elimination, then something is wrong. And I don't understand that a colonic is going to help that. Now, again, there are times and places I've had colonics. I'm not totally opposed to them, but it's a pretty disruptive process for a system that is critical for our overall health. So I think that they really require some consideration in terms of, why am I doing this? Is it really indicated for my situation? Am I going somewhere great? Is there another option that I might explore first? And there is also a lot of benefit in certain kinds of enemas. So it's not exactly the same thing, but those can be pretty incredible. So Gerson Therapy, which is an organization that works on cancer with great success, actually uses a lot of coffee enemas, and those can be amazing. I had a member of my family had stage 4 colon cancer and was given like less than a month to live, went to Gerson for 2 weeks, kept up the protocol, reversed stage 4 colon cancer, and was told to just go have a nice life and check in like maybe in a year or something with the doctors, and like lived for years longer. She was 89. So Gerson's amazing. You need to keep it up, but it's amazing. And it includes coffee enemas as well as a specific diet. Yeah, so colonics, that's how I feel about it. Not the worst thing in the world, but I don't know if we should be doing that like regularly. Open to hearing from anybody who's a huge fan, though, and why and how and that kind of thing. Okay. And then the next question, maybe the last question, we'll see, because I have a lot of information here, is regarding mold. And I didn't get to answer this last week, so I'm going to answer it this week. And the question is, question regarding mold in the body. Just found out that I have it. Any tips or herbal recommendations besides sauna and chlorella you have would be greatly appreciated. So I pulled up some herbs that we use for treating mold. And the first note is, if there's mold in your environment, obviously getting rid of it and staying away from it is the first and foremost priority, right? So just get away from that stuff and and the reason I say that, and I guess that's obvious, but the reason I say that is that it's not like we're treating mold in the body, right? We're treating the body's response to this offense from the outside environment, right? So in that sense, we're not really treating mold. We're treating some other systems that have responded to it. Just like when we're treating allergies, like we're not treating the pollen, right? We're not trying to get rid of the pollen in our bodies. We're treating our immune system's response to the aggravation of the pollen. So now you think that I make a little more sense. So here are some herbs. Thyme. So thyme, oregano, sage, thyme. I'm just going to read some of these stats that I pulled out for you. So the diluted essential oil of thyme is used to inhibit bee mites in beehives. Oops, that's not a note that you needed. But fun fact for all of you beekeepers, my mom is a beekeeper. The essential oil had significant inhibitory effects on common molds growing in damp homes. Spraying the diluted EO on moldy areas may help prevent the mold growth. So there's one for treating the mold in your home if you're still trying to eradicate that. This is a study. Blueberry, this is a good one. What you could do is get that blueberry solid extract from H&A, Herbalist and Alchemist, and you'd be in great shape. So the berries decrease allergic response, which includes allergic rhinitis and allergic asthma, by reducing histamine production and stabilizing mast cells. Use the solid extract to inhibit pollen, animal dander, and mold allergies. You need to start taking it 4 to 6 weeks before allergy season for it to be effective. Use with other immune amphoterics, that's herbs that help to stabilize the immune system, such as reishi or schisandra, or immunoregulatory herbs such as amla, turmeric, or bical skullcap. Okay. Just have a study here. I'm going to drop in our show notes. So again, we're treating the immune system and we're treating the allergic response. And just like if we're treating that system in front of or in preparation of allergy season, 4 to 6 weeks in advance is ideal, right? Not just when you have a runny nose, but before then. So I'm just highlighting these to include in our show notes. Okay. And then this is some information that I thought was also helpful. So in addition to these herbs, people like to use bentonite clay or activated charcoal to help bind the fungal toxins and rid them from the body. I think that's interesting. Sunlight and vitamin D. Immunosupportive herbs, again, I think functional mushrooms are amazing for that. Liver support is always a good idea. So dandelion root, milk thistle, burdock, maybe just a good liver blend. Digestive herbal bitters, which are great for liver function. Then you could treat the symptoms. So if you have, I don't know, if you have brain fog or skin rashes or something like that, that can be helpful. You can use herbs to treat those things. Sorry, I'm just trying to read my notes and think and talk all at the same time. Supplementing with artichoke leaf extract was found to help mitigate the ill effects of mold. Chlorella also. Okay, so there is that. And actually the next question is about allergies, so we'll just cruise on into that one and then we'll wrap up. So somebody says, I'm still struggling with allergies. I use mushrooms regularly as well as quercetin and nettle. Lots of congestion in my right nostril. Any other suggestions? I have two suggestions. One is, I want to go to an ENT if you haven't done that already and see if there's something structurally different about your nasal cavity and why just the right side is acting up. I would also consider your sleeping environment or your working environment. Is there something on the right side that is offensive? Is it mold? Are there allergies coming in? Why that side, just to make sure that there's not something that's happening that's not allergies. And then the other recommendations I have are gut health is immensely important for allergies and immune system. So if you have allergies, you're highly allergic to lots of things, you have stuck situations like this, you think you had a mold exposure, gut health is really critical. So make sure that's super dialed because, as you know, the gut is one, barrier or the only barrier between the outside world and our immune system, which is right on the other side. So if you have permeable, gut lining, things are getting through and triggering the immune system. So direct relationship between gut health and immune system function. Also nervous system function with the enteric nervous system, which takes us back to last week and that whole conversation about heart rate variability and the autonomic and nervous system. Lastly, some herbs for you that you might try if you haven't. Astragalus, turmeric, spirulina, hibiscus, and triphala. Astragalus, turmeric, spirulina, hibiscus, triphala. I'll also put in the show notes. Those are herbs that are specifically helpful for allergies. All right, that's plenty for today. I'm gonna lose my voice if I go any longer. Okay, so thank you all for joining. Again, please leave feedback for me on the herb sourcing. I wanna know if we really covered it in one session. If we did not, that's completely fine. And then leave any other questions that you have for future sessions on the open thread in Substack. And as always, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you value my time and information enough to become a subscriber. We will keep this going, and we'll see you next week. Bye.